Got another build going on today. This build is going to be the work table. It's going to be an 8-foot by 4-foot table, about 3 feet high. It's going to incorporate built in my table saw, this router table, a little spot for this big boy behemoth of a double compound miter saw. And it's also going to have a couple flip tops for what you don't see over here is my 12-inch Delta planer. If any of you has a 12-inch planer or anything like that, you know how heavy those motherfuckers can be. And just doing this all the time, you might as well just go and spend your day on the toilet, because it's just not fun. So with the flip top, just be able to flip it over and have another flat surface, and it'll be incorporated into it. Also, in the flip top, we'll have my bench grinder, and I think I'm going to have my bench vise in there too. We're going to design this one pretty much on the fly. I have no drawings of it. I just pretty much have it in here like everything else I've done, and plus my head's kind of stupid, so it'll be kind of fun doing this. At this time of filming this, going through a lumber price increase. I shit you not, it is ridiculous for the price of wood right now. And I had this project in my mind for months now. But since the beginning of this year of 2021, lumber prices have gone through the roof. And I've kind of noticed in the last month and a half, 2 months from this time, it is May 2021 as I'm recording this, that lumber is at the highest I have ever seen it. Part of the plan on this table was the top and bottom was to be used out of like 5/8 thick plywood. Just for a normal sheet of 5/8 thick plywood, non-sanded, at like Home Depot was usually roughly around 17-20 bucks. That's how much I got them for. I went there a couple weeks ago, started accumulating, lumber. I've already had like 2x4s and 4x4s from past projects, and slowly accumulated them earlier, so they weren't as bad in prices. But I did kind of notice then something was kind of odd, but it wasn't too high. But just a couple weeks ago, when I went to get the plywood, a typical $17 to $20 sheet of plywood was $75 each, and I needed 2. I am not spending that much for a piece of plywood. No way. So on the fly, on the spot, I kind of settled on something different. For the top, we're going to actually be using particle board. Yes, particle board, the sawdust and glue compressed shit. Kind of weaker. The advantage of that is, instead of getting a 5/8 inch thick piece, I got a 3/4 inch thick piece, just for that little extra strength. And on the top, what I was going to kind of do anyways, whether it was plywood or not, I have some more sheets of hardboard that I got, which is the same stuff if you saw in the video of making this thing. I have some extra leftovers, and the good side of them is that there's always one good side, and it's nice and smooth and it's pretty neat. So what I'll end up doing is I'll glue that to the top, and that's an extra 1/8 inch thick piece. So the top board will end up becoming 7/8 versus 5/8. But I'm just gonna probably have to do a little bit extra bracing on the framework for the table, just to make sure it's strong enough for whatever projects I need. I don't plan on putting a car on top of it. So, but for just a work table, it should hold up fine. I built my dining room table out of pretty much the base of it out of particle board, and used my planer and did some redwood old fence and slats and glued them on there, and the thing is stronger and heavier. So this should work out just fine. So with that said, I'm going to show you the kind of like the layout that I have in my head on what we're going to do. As you see here, is a piece of 4x8 particle board. I already had them cut them down to 2 sizes. I have a 5 foot length and a 3 foot length. I'm going to build this table into 2 sections. This section here is going to have what I'm seeing in my head. The table saw is going to be built into this part of it. Over down here we'll have my planer table, and on this half here we'll have like a recessed area where I'm going to have my compound miter saw is going to sit, and it's going to be, everything is going to be flush and level. On this side is going to be the flip top one. The way I'm going to do the flip top is 2 flip tops, one here, one here. One will have the planer, the other will have the bench grinder and bench vise or whatever. I haven't really fully figured that out yet. And the idea of doing it in 2 different sections here is just because of designing the flip top. Kind of want to think about that one separate. And also, if I ever had to like transport this thing, it would be easier just to disassemble into 2 sections and move it around, take off the heavy stuff, and just be easier to move if I want to move this thing into a different shop. I plan on keeping this thing for a long time, so I'm pretty much keeping that in mind. It will be on casters, and since they're going to be in 2 separate tables built into one, it will end up technically have 8 legs, 4 casters, so it will sit pretty good. We'll discuss the hardware later on that. And over here is we're going to have the stuff that's going to incorporate into it. As I was saying, this thing will be incorporated to the top. I'll end up removing the legs. I'll keep this switch and just put this thing flush into the table, and the table saw will be all flushed into it. That's the big beast right there. And I have 2 saws actually I'm going to be using in this thing. That was my old chop saw. I pretty much converted that one into a metal cutting saw, which I don't really use that much, but just to have the option of cutting some metal with that, it's better than just using a 4.5 inch metal cutoff wheel, doing it by hand when I could just go chop it real quick. So that's what that's for. And please don't give me about, hey, you really need to use a metal cutoff saw for that because of the sparks or whatever. It's not really made for that crap. And I want to pick my butt afterwards. No, I don't. So I'm not going to be using it that much for metal cutoff, but it's there. And of course, the bases between here and here are different heights. Obviously that one's higher, so when I do make a little recess area into the table, it will fit flush with that one. And this one I'll just make some type of spacer on the bottom to raise it to the same height as that one. Dogs too. So now we'll just go ahead and I'm going to start building the framework. So when I built this spray booth, I purposely made the spacing 8 feet other than just because of the size of the boards there. I had in mind this table and to store it in here to help save space. The height of it between here and there is roughly just a little over 3 feet, which is fine because my workbench over here, which is kind of comfortable, is like 3 foot 1 inch. I don't mind losing 1 inch, but that was kind of like the height that I'm basing it from. And so I'm going to end up subtracting 1 inch off the table just to make sure I have clearance to get in here, so that way there'll be easy storage and it'll be able to tuck underneath there. Of course, you know, these were there just to keep the wall square, but also I should have no problem of being with the casters hitting this, just because of the overhang of the table will be roughly the same. So the first thing on the table we're going to build is basically the square frame for the top and bottom on both of these sections, just like how that one is there, top and a bottom. And but unlike this one here, other than when the ends just butted, I'm going to miter these joints just to make it a little bit nicer. So that's where we're going to start our first pieces with. So just as a reminder, this is going to lose 1 inch somewhere. I think I'm going to lose the inch over there just because I want more flip top. So this will end up being at 4 foot and 11 inches, which is already at 5. and this will remain at 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the frame to that, and then we'll go ahead and probably do the legs after before we attach this. Now this is why I'm building a work table, because this setup here is stupid. You want to take this nice big fat board on this little rinky dinky little thing on a table like this, and I gotta do this every time I want to do this? No. This is why I need a real damn thing. This is like a prom waiting to happen. This is, I don't know why I'm thinking of premenstrual syndrome, but I'm gonna fix that problem. All right, here's where we stand now. I got some of the pieces already pre-cut off camera for you, which is nothing more than just 2 layers of a square. How I'm going to brace the middle is basically based on the layout of how the tools are going to be laid in there. But a good example of what I've encountered doing this is the reason why I'm building this thing anyways. This type of setup is what I have to resort to do as of now. I mean, look at this piece of junk. This thing is just, if you're trying to do something precision with something like this, I mean with real precision, you can just might as well just go ahead and just screw yourself over. It's just put it this way, it's stupid. See, what I've encountered is when you're trying to cut like an 8 foot long 2x4 with miter cuts with a nice even cut with a nice square down the center line, even though you're working with just, you know, off the shelf Home Depot 2x4s, which has a little bit of crown in and could be a little bit of warp, but not that perfect, you still want to do the best you can. And what I've of course encountered with this is the miter cuts is just slightly angled on some of them, and believe me, it is not this thing. This thing is dialed in and tuned up. This thing is perfect. It's how it's sitting and what it's sitting on. You're trying to take an 8 foot piece and you're trying to kind of hold it up just to make sure everything is square, when this thing is all like rinky dinky and rocky roady. Sorry, it's really not going to be that perfect. Even though this is nothing but a work table, this is the reason why I'm building this thing, is to actually have that better surface to do more precision. As I'm saying, I'm building a tool to make, I'm basically taking tools to build a better tool. So with that, again, I like saying that as much. Some of the corners are not going to be super perfect, but it'll work. I mean, if you really want to look at this piece right here, you can just see the bow in some of this stuff, or even like when it's lined up, look at that. But you know, I'll make it work. I'll probably even put them together and round the corners down just to hide it a bit. But at the end of the day, this is why I'm building it, because cuts like this kind of suck. And if any of you want to leave a comment like,
say, hey, why don't you just go get a miter saw stand and then you wouldn't have that damn problem.
well, this is why I'm building the thing. I won't need a miter saw stand. The damn thing is a miter saw stand built in. And if you still want to argue that, get off this channel, go on TikTok and reevaluate your life. So we'll now continue on. I'll do a couple more pieces off camera. What we're gonna kind of do next is I'll kind of get these laid out just to kind of show you what I'm talking about with these ones, and then we'll describe how to do the legs. All right, as we're seeing here, this is just a layout. I'm going to basically just build 2 of these, one top, one bottom, and 2 of these, one top, one bottom. Put them together, they'll be 8x4. And then, of course, like I said, we'll figure out what type of which direction the braces should go. And here will be a little bit more complicated, only because of where the table saw layout, the router top, and where the circular saw is going to be. And this is the one that's going to be the flip top table, and there's going to be two, of course, one flip here. So there'll be there's going to be at least a few pieces going down the middle. I mean, I'm sure you're going to have another 2x4 here, 2x4 there, and that will be one centerpiece, 2x4 there, 2x4 there, and then of course through it going to have I have a steel axle piece, or actually I'll kind of show you what I'll have for that. I am using, I'm going to cut off some of this. It's basically just a long threaded zinc rod. I think it's either 5/8 or 1/2 inch thick. It's pretty beefy. Some washers that go in between and a couple nuts. So that will be the axle. I also have for it, so I picked up a little piece of steel here that I'll be cutting. Basically it's going to be something to slip inside of it, because have the threads just go on the wood every time you flip it, you're going to wear the wood out and the open will be bigger and it'll be wobbly. So this is basically kind of just like an insert through there, and the threaded rod will go in there. Cut that down. Be like might have to use some KY to get it in there or something. It's going to be very erotic. So now we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and figure out our legs. Out here I got some 4x4s, and what we need to have here is a finished height from floor to top is 3 foot. So with pieces in mind, we need to keep in mind the thickness of the particle board, which is 3/4, and of course I have over here is some hardboard, which is 1/8 inch thick. And then there's also the casters in mind too, which are these. Pick these up from the freight here if you want to see exactly what I got. I don't know if I'll zoom in right on it, but it's 3.5 inch medium duty swivel caster, and they're rated at 250 pounds. There'll be 8 of these, because remember, 4 for that one, 4 for that one. They have different types of wheel material. You might, if you're going to do this, just decide what type of needs you're going to have, even size or whatever, how much estimated weight you're going to do, and the surface you'll be rolling on too. This is basically like, I think it's a poly rubber type of deal, which it says kind of good for vibration. And well, it's basically going to be on this smooth surface most of the time. If not, it'll be out there. It's not like I'm taking it out there to go off-roading in the dirt or whatever, so that's kind of ridiculous. This should be plenty good for me. So what we have to do is we have to get the exact measurement from the bottom of the wheel to the top of the plate, and then add on 3/4 inch of the particle board plus 1/8, so that makes it 7/8. So 7/8 plus this one. So actually we'll figure that out right now. I'm just going to do a rough look at it. See what we have. I'm going to have to visualize a little bit. 4.5 inches. So 4.5 plus 7/8. 4.5 plus 7/8 is 5 5/8. So we're going to need 30. We're going to need a 30 inch and 3/8 cut, and we'll need 8 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut those, and then hopefully by then we'll kind of maybe do some assembling, and we'll see how life is. What's going to take me a couple hours for me is only going to take you a bathroom break for you, or a smoke break or something. I don't care what you do. Stupid time lapse. Well, hopefully we can keep it down to one stupid time lapse. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just a whole bunch of, like previously on the previous build, a lot of drilling and screwing. Nothing fancy. I'm actually using a clamp to kind of hold things together. What I have in the corner, which you can't really see that well in there, is I got like it's kind of like a square that it works for clamps. So I'm just pretty much clamped to the square to keep my corner squared as I drill and screw it in and lock it in. Doing that to all 4 corners. Really 2 screws on each corner. Build one. Clamp it in. Drill it. Drill it. Screw it. What you can see is actually I'm doing 1 screw on either the top or the bottom on one side, and then putting the screw on the opposite side. So it's like 1 board on each corner and has 1 screw, but it's really 2 screws that hold each corner together. God, I hate time lapse. God, I hate my hair. So I'm making actually 4 of these. 2 of them are match. One's obviously the top and 1 goes for the bottom of each. They're all actually cut the same. Well, I take that back. Two of each are cut the same. One side of the table is a little longer than the other, but the width is the same. Lovely day. God, I'm so annoying. Much rather have freaking blisters on my toes than watching time lapse. That's what it takes. Alright, I built 3 out of 4 of them. The reason why I've stopped on this one is because this is the one that's going to be used for the flip top. And what I have to actually have to get precisely done is I need to have a center hole made that's going to go all the way through. So I actually have to fabricate the rest of the flip top and literally drill all the holes at once. I'm going to use the drill press over here just to make sure that they're all perfectly centered, so when I insert the rod it won't be off skew or anything like that. So that's where I'm going to probably start next.